Hey guys, Guns I Know episode 4, not a gang sign, just the number 4 with my fingers. Optics edition. Look at these optics I got. A few of you asked some questions about different types of optics, how they work, what optics I like, don't like, that kind of thing. And I want to talk about them. So I have a bunch of optics here. I got some questions that you guys have asked. I'm going to answer those as well. And I also have a few guns. What do I got? I got a Draco Romanian short-barreled rifle. Used to be a pistol, now it's a short-barreled rifle. Kind of souped up. I have a Yugoslavian M70. I have let's say an AR-15 clone, like a, I don't know, an M16A3 kind of looking deal. Or actually, it looks more like an M4 actually. And then also have a World War II era M1 Carbine. So before I go to the guns though, let's talk about the optics. So what are optics? Optics are simply items that you can put on your gun or are part of the gun system that allow you to engage a target. That's simple. I'm going to actually go in and talk about the iron sights first. Iron sights are what are on most guns. I have the backup iron sights on this M4 clone, and it has a little aperture, which is this little hole, little peep sight that you look through, and you line it up with this front post, and if it's zeroed at 100 yards, you should be able to hit that target within an inch or two of accuracy, depending on the accuracy of the gun itself. That's also called a minute of angle, or MOA, and so if you have a 1 MOA accuracy gun, you should be able to hit a target and be accurate and have essentially groups of bullets that are all within 1 inch of one another and within a little circle. And if you have guns that aren't as accurate, it's going to have a higher spread, 2 MOA, 3 MOA, 3 inches, 4 inches at 100 yards, that kind of thing. Now, if you want like a really precision rifle, like a sniper rifle or a reconnaissance rifle or something else around those lines, it's going to have a much smaller MOA. Sub 1 MOA guns are very, very accurate guns. Most assault rifles and battle rifles and other things you see that a lot of military people carry, they're around 2 to 3 MOA easily, if not higher. But that's okay. 2 or 3 inch groups at 100 yards is not that big of a deal. I mean, 100 yards is a really long distance. It really is. But iron sights is what most of these guns have. But you can also put optics on a few of them. So this one, for instance, is a backup iron sight, so I can fold it back down. I actually have a rail system I can put things on. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different optics that I can use on the rail system. Pretty neat. So let's go into them. I'll put this back down. And let's go from smallest to largest. All right, start on the left here. This optic is an NC Star LED red dot sight. It sort of has the same sight picture that you have with the reflex sight that we have in game in Battlefield 3, but this is a really cheap knockoff. This is one that's made in China, and it is $50, $60, and it's so inexpensive because it really is not that durable. If I drop this thing or I put too much pressure on this sort of front sight area, it will break off. I've had friends have had this identical sight, and I've seen them break it, and it breaks super, super easy. It doesn't have that good of a sight picture either, because the LED basically just shines really brightly, and it's really, really annoying. And I just have it because I bought it several years back. I wanted something that's smaller to put on a pistol at the time, and I don't know. I don't use it that often. The batteries are actually dead on this, so I can't actually show you what it looks like or try to show you. But that is what the red dot sight is for on the left here. An NC Star, cheapo. It's sort of an entry-level red dot sight. The next one I have here is sort of a step up. This is an Aimpoint Microdot. Now, this Aimpoint Microdot actually has sort of a very strong structure around it. It has very hardened dials that go back and forth. I have a quick detach rail mount on it that if I move it back and forth, I can detach it onto rails. This is a sort of a Picatinny rail or a standard rail that you put on things. And so if, for instance, that I want to put it on, I don't know, this gun, which is what I have designed for, I can take this and I can say, okay, well, I'm gonna say I want it like right here, and I'm going to put it, let's say, right here, and then I can shove it down, and now I'm good to go. And now it's tight, and I still got to zero it in. I still have to move some dials around because there's a windage and elevation dial on these, and the way you do this is you unscrew these, and then it has these little sort of ribs that I can put in place, and I can turn it back and forth so many clicks to change the position of that dot for that gun. And I can change the position of the dot depending on what kind of distance I want to engage targets at, or if I want to adjust for windage or other things around those lines. I'm going to put this gun back, and I don't know if I'll be able to show you this in the video, but I'm going to give it a try. And that is, I'm going to turn this thing on, turn it on real bright, maybe, yeah, real bright, and I don't know if it's going to work. Let's see if this works. And I'm just going to do that. Maybe you'll see it. I'm going to go up and down. I have no idea if you can see this or not, so we're just going to take a look. If not, I'll just take a picture of it or show you a picture of it in post. But the idea is that this red dot sight operates through a collimating lens that utilizes an LED light, not so dissimilar to the LED lights that you see in your computer. And it allows you to have sort of almost a parallax-free view focal point, which allows you to, what does that mean? So when you look through a sight, if your eye is not aligned with that scope and parallel, you're not going to be able to get a good sight picture. And what that means is that you wouldn't be able to see anything, or you'll see the target, you'll barely see that little sight on your scope, but you won't actually hit your target because you're actually not positioning your eye so it's in the right focus of the scope. I'm probably not describing this as best as I could, but it's the point with the red dot sights, generally speaking, and any sort of quick reflex sights, is that since it's parallax free, since you don't have to worry about the position of your eye relative to the scope, if you can see that little red dot, you're going to be able to know that whatever that red dot is on is going to be where the bullet's going to land. Within a certain amount of reasonableness, depending on how the sight is zeroed in. Again, if you're engaging target at 100 yards and you have your sight zeroed at 100 yards, and then you want to engage a target at 200 yards, you may be a bit lower because the bullet dropped. Bullets drop in real life just like in the game, and each caliber's a bit different, each gun's a bit different, but nonetheless, that is, let's go back into the sights though. So the next one here is an EOTech 512, also in the game. This one is not a red dot sight, it's a holographic sight. As opposed to using a LED, it uses a laser. And it uses a laser, and it shoots that laser into onto a series of mirrors that give it the ability to see a red dot, or to see sort of a section that is, come on, turn on, there you go, that is displayed as such. So I'm going to try again to show you this. I'm going to be very still. I'm going to go in and out. Hopefully you can see this. I hope you guys can see this. We'll see in post. If not, we'll edit it out. Holographic sights in practicality are operate almost identically to a red dot sight in terms of usage. The battery life doesn't last as long on these compared to the red dots because lasers use more power than LEDs. But you can change the windage and elevation on them through these screws, and this one actually takes AA batteries, which is really convenient. Really convenient. And this one also uses a rail system. Now it doesn't have a quick detach rail system, although you can buy them. This one just has a screw that screws in and out. And the EOTech 512s were initially designed for the AR-15 platform, and let me show you why. So I'm going to unscrew this, and I'm going to just leave the screw out for right now because I'm not going to screw this in. So before I mount this thing, I want to remind you guys what this looks like. This is what the iron sights look like. The iron sights have it set so that this peep sight is of what, 1.5 inches above the rail system, and the front post about 1.5 inches above the rail system. And so that when I, as a shooter, get lined up, I'm going to see that peep sight, I'm going to close my eye, and I'm going to look through that, and I'm going to be able to hit my target. Right? Now, remember, it's about 1.5 inches up. So when I'm going to put this up, I'm going to put this, I don't know, like right here? Yeah, something like right here. When I do this, well, it turns out that that's sort of the middle section of this. I'm going to turn this around. Turns out the middle, that sort of, if I go in between the glass, it lines up exactly in the same area as the peep sight. The reason being is that the EOTech 512 and the EOTech series generally was designed around the AR-15 platform specifically. Its height was designed around the idea that the rail system is going to be much lower to the receiver relative to the sights, and the sights are going to be much higher. And so it makes perfect sense that I can now use this sight. I'm going to try to actually hook it up now. I lied to you guys. And let's see if this works. Come on. Gotta line it up. Come on. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So one of the cool things about the EOTech 512s, this isn't working. Come on, there you go. One of the cool things about the EOTech 512s is that when I have this thing sighted in and ready to go, and maybe I can show you guys this. This probably will not work at all, but I'll give it a try. One of the cool things about it is that I can actually do something that's called co-witnessing. I can actually have that red dot sight and my traditional iron sights lined up, so that if my red dot sight actually goes down, if it gets shot or if it runs out of batteries in my case, I can still use the iron sights, and when I use the iron sight, it's still going to have that same sight picture area. That's very convenient, and it also provides you the ability to sort of put it on, and if you can then pop those irons and say, well, okay, the red dot, or the holographic sight in this case, is a bit off, and I can now adjust it to match the iron sights and thus make zeroing a little bit easier. One of the other cool things about reflex sights generally, and both red dot sights and holographic sights are reflex sights, is that, why they call it reflex? They call them reflex because it allows you to see through the sight with both eyes open. When you look through the sights on one of these traditional guns, or even the AK series, you really have to close one eye in doing it. Now there are some training schools out there that will teach you otherwise, and that's more advanced stuff, but when you look at how most people are trained to use an iron sight, they close one eye. These sights, on the other hand, no, I can actually keep both eyes open and be able to look through that sight and engage targets accurately, reasonably speaking, while keeping my other eye open, which means my peripheral vision is going to be much higher, and it allows me to, not higher, much wider rather, and it allows me to have much more situational awareness. That's a huge advantage for operators and military and law enforcement people. I like as they're convenient. I find them a whole lot more convenient than using iron sights. And plus, on a more personal note, I had laser surgery not too long ago. Well, almost a year ago. Laser eye surgery. Finally got it done. I said, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend money on it. And they messed up my left eye, which is my shooting eye. And so I actually have impaired vision in my left eye, which is my shooting eye right now, which really sucks. But it's improving, and it's I'm not going to go too much into the details of it, but it's getting better, and I'm actually going to be going into some more surgery in the coming months to get it finally corrected. But I'm so glad I have these reflex sights, because it's so much easier to shoot rifles when I have a shitty eye in my left eye after that surgery. So not that good. But anyway, moving on. Now, all of these three that we've seen thus far are 1x sights. It means that you're not going to be able to zoom in. There's no more zooming in anymore than using the iron sights. And this next one, this Aimpoint Comp ML2, is a red dot sight like the Aimpoint Microdot, but it's a bit larger. It has a battery compartment here. I can turn this thing on. Let's see. I could turn it on. Come on. Did it just... Oh no, guys, I left the batteries on this. This thing is almost dead, but it's still working. The batteries on these things last for like 5,000 hours or something like that. It's crazy, crazy amount. So I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. And so it looks sort of like this. And if you notice, it's a red dot, just like the Micro. It's not like a circle like the EOTech. And again, this uses an LED and not a laser. But one of the big differences between this one and the EOTech is that while if I place them upon each other, these little things are just for protection, these little protective things. If I compare the two, actually it'd be better to do it this way. Their height is nearly identical. Their height relative to the base of the rail system. But the big difference is that this one is static. There's no way that I can actually make this. I can put a riser on it and make it longer, but I can't make it smaller. On the other hand, the Aimpoint Comp ML2 has a mounting system, and this one is a LaRue M68 CCO. LaRue is sort of the big name in quick detach optic mounting systems. And if you actually, I've actually found that there's a lot of controversy going on right now about the whole Medal of Honor warfighter and its authenticity, and there's also some issues about the fact that in order to be more authentic, they partnered up with some actual gun accessory and firearm accessory and military manufacturers, and one of them is LaRue, and I was so happy to see that because I like LaRue. LaRue is really cool. They're based in Texas, and they make quality mounts, and I have one here. This one has one as well. We'll talk about that one later. Anyway, though, so this mount, what is this? 1.5 inch high. I can buy ones that are actually lower. Now, why is that? Well, let me show you why that is. So let's pretend that I want to use this Comp M2, excuse me, on my AK. So I'm going to unhook it. I'm going to put this up so don't damage it. And I want to put it on, right? And so let's say I put it on. Come on. And I'm not gonna put it on permanently. There you go. I'm just gonna put it on lightly. So I want to use this, right? And so I'm gonna put it up. Uh-oh, what's this? What's this? My cheek weld is right here, right? My eye is right here. And I'm looking at the base of this thing. I'm not looking at the sight. It's way, way too high. And so I can't, so if I put an EOTech on here, I'm going to need to have a cheek riser. If you remember my last episode on the AK, when I talked about the AK-74, I actually have like a thick cheek riser here because of that issue, because I like using the EOTech 512 on my AK. But the sight is just way, way too high. And so you can actually buy the, from LaRue, or other manufacturers. LaRue isn't the one that does it, but they're just best known and they make really good products. You can buy smaller mounting systems, and it actually makes it very, very convenient. So that is good to know. So the Aimpoint's a little bit more versatile than the EOTechs. But if you're really going to be shooting AR-15s, it's fantastic. And then finally, let's talk about this one, the Leupold Mark IV CQT. This is basically the closest thing that I have to an ACOG. Well, what is an ACOG? An ACOG is a 3.5, 3.4 magnification optic. It's a fixed magnification optic, which means you can't make it very well. There are some that you can make it variable, but the ones that we see in the games and otherwise are fixed. And it utilizes some filaments in the on the optic that allow it to collect light and to basically create a little chevron reticle that stays bright without battery life, and also uses what's it called? Some radioactive isotope, tritium. It uses tritium as well to keep it bright under low light conditions as well. This is not a tritium sight. This is not a fixed sight. This is actually a variable sight. What's really cool about this is that, this is going to be really, really hard to show, is that what I can do is that I can go from 1x, like everything else on here, 1x magnification to around 4x magnification on here, simply by turning this dial. And by doing so, I go from 1 to 4x. And I also have some illumination. It has a little battery, and it can illuminate the reticle. It's basically a dot and a circle, very similar to the EOTech, but it's actually it's actually fixed in place. I mean, I don't know if you're able to see this. I'm going to go to 1x just to see. You probably won't be able to see it at all, but we'll see. This Mark IV also has a LaRue quick detach system. It allows you to move it onto one rail system or other. This optic is designed for an AR-15 type platform. It's not designed for these kind of platforms, albeit you can modify them to work that way, but it's very difficult. It's very painstaking. And this one actually also, this is so funny. I love this. I never use this, but you see this brown stuff on the side here. These are actually these rail covers, which is basically just like the rail systems we see on everything else. And so, like, if I would to, this is so stupid. Well, it's not stupid. There are some. Where's my thing? There are some operators out there and people who shoot in tactical shooting, and so what they'll do is they'll take this optic. I'm not going to pull this out because this thing I don't take these things off at all, and so they're actually kind of wedged in pretty easily, pretty tightly. I can actually mount this optic onto this optic, and so I could have two optics. Now, why would you want to do that? What would be the purpose of that? Well, the purpose would be, let's say that I had this thing at 3.5 or 4 magnification. And so at 4 magnification, I have it zeroed in at, let's say, 200 or 300 yards. Super long distance, right? And then I put this optic on the side, and which way I put it? I put it right here. Put it on the side like this. And so when I'm looking through this thing, this thing is so silly to even think about. I can fire it, and then I'm like, I got to engage a target at less than 50 yards. I can then shift my gun. I shift the gun, and I shift my head, and then I can look at the red dot. And if you practice doing that transition enough, you can actually be very good at it. And there are some shooters out there, some sports shooters out there that use it for like 3-gun matches and things like that, and they are really, really good at it. And not me though. I don't care about that at all. So anyway, back to the scope. This scope is rugged. I can drop this thing. I have dropped it a bunch of time. I bought it used. It was heavily used by a guy named Sinister Rifleman who actually has a YouTube channel. I'll link it below just to give him some video hits, because he makes some really cool videos about 3-gun matches and things like that. He's the real deal. And so what do these things cost? Well, that's where things get really interesting. So this was $50. The Comp M2s are what, $300? This is a Microdot, not a Comp ML2. The Comp ML2, this one in my hand is, I don't know, $450, $500. EOTechs generally are $400 to $500. These two are also almost always around the same price. And what's really cool about them is that both of them sort of retain their value, even though that they're. So I bought both of these heavily used, and they were only like 10%, 20% cheaper than their new counterparts. They really retain their value. Or alternatively, I just got screwed twice in a row. I'm buying this stuff, but I don't think so. And then finally, the Leupold Mark IV CQTs are around $1,000, and ACOGs are around $1,000, if not more. When you start dealing with some ruggedized optics that are going into magnification beyond 1x, which means that you have different lenses doing different things, it becomes very expensive. So lots of different optic options. There's a whole lot more out there beyond these 5 out there. There's a whole different slew of options out there. But nonetheless, though, these are the optics. So I'm done talking about optics. I've already gone over the time, I think. And so let's go right into the questions. So I had started all this because Mr. Rock Dude 1 had said, "Cool shit, man, about how much would an EOTech, or however it's spelled, cost? Got any optics that have higher zooms like an ACOG? And in your next video, can you show us what it looks like down the weapon?" So hopefully I was able to provide that to you, Mr. Rock Dude 1, in this very lengthy description of these optics. Next question. BU5H1 or Bush 3. No, not Bush 1. BU5H3 or Bushy. I guess that's what it is. Have you ever broken one of your guns? Well, yes. So I'm going to put these in two different categories. I've either broken them through trying to reassemble them, or I have broken them through operation. So I have broken, let's see, I broke an M1 Carbine, my M1 Carbine a few times, breaking the extractor, but you can always replace the extractor on those things. I have broken guns by reassembling them, by breaking pieces. I actually broke, on the milled M72 that I had in one of the past episodes here, I broke part of the milled receiver off and trying to disassemble it. Not a field strip, but like a full disassembly. And I had to get it sent in to get re-welded. That was embarrassing. But I did it because I wanted it and I got it done. It wasn't that expensive. Yeah, that's about it though. I really haven't had guns break in the field per se, or me shooting them. That rarely happens. Nelson 0110 says, what's more reliable, AKM or AK-74, and why the switch from 45-degree gas tube to 9-degree gas tube? So I actually didn't bring an AKM or an AK-74 here. Shit, I really should have. That's probably a good idea on my part. But we'll talk about it. Well, I'll bring him in another episode. The Yugo M70 is basically the closest thing that I have here to an AKM, which for those that are AK aficionados know that that's actually a bold lie, to say the least. But for the sake of this question, here we go. Going from the 45-degree gas tube to 9-degree gas tube angle. So what are you talking about? So back in the 70s and prior to that, the AKM, which is the AK in 7.60 by 39, it's when people say AK-47, they really are talking about the AKM. And so the AKM has a 45-degree gas tube. That means that the gas hole and the gas block rather has a 45-degree angle as it enters the barrel to bleed that gas to operate the gas piston. So the gas block's at a 45-degree angle, the cut's at a 45-degree angle. In 1975 and 1976, they changed it up to a 90-degree gas block. So it goes like this, and it's just a straight punch-down hole. Why did they do that? Well, the common understanding is that in the AK-74, because of the 5.45 round, the bullet was shearing on that 45-degree gas block over the course of so many rounds, and as such, caused damage to the barrel and to the gas block and caused a whole bunch of problems. And that's why they changed it. Now, that's what as I understand it. If you know something different of why it was, I'd love to hear it, because I haven't read a whole lot about why they did the design change on that, but that's one of the reasons why. So and then the first question, what was more reliable, AKM or AK-74? Well, I think they're both very, very reliable guns. The AK-74, it depends on, if you're talking about like really early era AK-74s, like talking about maybe like a 1976 to 82, 83. They're not going to be as reliable as the 84 through 89s. The AKMs generally were very reliable, but they're for the sake of argument, they're nearly identical in terms of reliability. And then some of you may ask what this thing is. This is the Yugoslavian M70 is actually a grenade launcher sight. So this is a grenade launcher sight, and it actually serves two purposes. It means that when I'm in this position, I can fire my gun like I can regularly. Whereas when I'm in this position, it does two things. It gives me a grenade launcher sight, but it also shuts the gas block off, which means that it can't operate the piston, which means it becomes a one-shot mode, because you utilize a special cartridge to shoot a grenade launcher, because you have a grenade on here, and then you launch it, and you go, oh, there, I gotta shoot this thing, I got it really high up, and then it launches off, and then you have to manually cycle the gun, and then if you want to go back to regular operations, you put it back down. That's the TLDR on that one. Next question. XB Syndrome asks 2 questions. What is your favorite gun you own? Also, what is one gun that you want to add to your collection that you do not yet have? Favorite gun I own. Well, I said in the last episode, the AK-74 that I have, my Romanian SAR 2, is my favorite one that I like to shoot. I don't know which one of the favorite ones I like to own. Maybe the AK-74U, the Crink, or maybe the milled M72. I don't know. They're all, I like them all. I know it's a terrible answer, but that's what it is. And then, what is one gun that you want to add to your collection that you do not have? So that is an evolving question. It's an evolving question because I have found that I sort of have a goal of what gun I want, and then I eventually meet that goal. And so here's one example. And I'm actually going to skip right into one of the guns right now. This M1 Carbine was actually one of the guns that I had most sought after years and years ago. This is one that I really, really wanted. Why did I want it? This is no ordinary M1 Carbine. This is one that's made by IBM. Yes, the computer company made M1 carbines during World War II, and so this is an IBM marked M1 carbine. And for those that are not in their 20s and 30s, you may not know how big IBM was back in the day, but they were a huge company, and so it's really cool that this computer company that made personal computers and servers and what have you made a gun, and so I really like that. That's really cool, and so but. And after I bought it, my thing changed. And so right now, if I were to say one gun within my budget, because so if I had $1 million, yeah, I'd buy an MG42. I'd buy I don't know, a Tommy gun. I'd buy you mean that kind of thing. But for my budget, I would want a Type 1 AK-47. Type 1 AK-47s were only manufactured for 3 or 4 years, from 1948 to 1952 or 3, maybe. And they're such weird and unique guns because, one, they actually went in production and they're around. 2, they're a combination. They are stamped receivers, unlike the Type 2 and Type 3 AKs, which are milled receivers. And they just have some very interesting characteristics. They have a very odd pistol grip. They have a very odd stock. They're sort of overbuilt. And they have some really cool, sort of neat characteristics about the gas piston or things like that. They're just really cool to look at, and they look awesome. A few years back, and I'm actually going to talk about this in the coming episodes about parts kits and how they come in, but there were some Type 1 parts kits that came in years back, sold to us by the Israeli, that were Palestinian captured guns that were cut up and put into parts, but they're expensive now. But they're sure within my budget, but you don't see them that often. I mean, you'll probably see them. You'll see maybe a parts kit or a full rebuilt gun on Gunbroker maybe every 2 or 3 months. Once every 2 or 3 months, maybe. And they're going to go for a lot of money, and there's not many of them, and so they're sought after. So that's what I would like to see. And then this question actually didn't come from the Guns I Know comment, but from the AUG gun comparison thread, but I wanted to talk about it because it's such a great question. It's a great question. Ian Venom says, I noticed the charging handle for the AUG is visible on the left side of the STG or the AUG. Does the real Steyr AUG charge via button like the FN SCAR or like it is in game? Why does the AUG in the game charge differently from the one in your hands? This is a great question, and here's why. So, let's not talk about the AUG. Let's talk about the M4. And one of the reasons being is that I've mentioned that I own most of the guns in here, but some of them I don't own. And so the AUG is actually owned by a friend of mine who has more guns than I do. But we're both pretty close. So I'm going to use the M4 as an example because it's going to serve the same purpose. So this is empty. I'm going to check it. Nothing. Looking good, right? So I'm on fire. Let's pretend for a second that I'm in game, right? I'm in game. I have 1 bullet left in my gun. Fire, bam, it goes off. Now, what happens in the game? Now, you can't see this, but the bolt moves backwards. And I'm going to show you what the bolt... So let's just say the bolt moves back, and then it locks. It locks in place. right? So what does the guy do? He releases it. He puts a new mag in, a new fresh mag in, slams it in. Don't do that. And what does he do? He moves around on this side where it has the bolt hold open button, and he pushes that. I'm gonna push this while showing you, and the bolt closes down. And then if he runs out of ammo again, goes through all 30 rounds, he does the exact same thing, same operation. Now, mechanically, that makes complete sense. But in real life, sometimes you have a jam, or sometimes you have to clear the weapon and you don't hold the bolt open back. For you see, almost all guns have some kind of charging handle or mechanism that allows you to charge the gun. The AR-15 has a charging handle that I pull up like this, and because of how the magazine and the gun operates, there is a catch on this magazine that operates a little mechanism on the other side that locks the bolt back in place. And as such, it requires me to no longer fiddle with this thing. I can just push the button and I'm back in action. The AUG works the exact same way. And so if you notice in the game when they're in the M4s, they never push this back. They never do, because it always assumes it's already charged, ready to go. And so that's what has happened with the AUG. The AUG, I am doing the manual charging because, one, I like to do it. I think it's a lot more fun than pushing a button. And two, it's the AUG that I was shooting, the STG 556, was being a little bit finicky and was not locking the bolt back all the time, and I didn't want to mess around with that button as it stands. And so, what does that mean? Well, there are some guns that don't have a bolt hold open mechanism that is permanent. So the M1 Carbine is a really good example of this. So let's pretend for a second that same scenario. I'm down to one bullet. I fire it. Bam. Bullet goes up. The bolt goes backwards. And it stops. The bolt is stopped back. Why is this? Because the magazine has a catch on it that's stopping the bolt. Now what happens if I release the magazine? Well, it goes forward. And mine, pay no attention to the duct tape magazine. I bought this for $5 at a gun show and it was all rusty, and so I said I don't want to get rust in my hands, I'm going to duct tape it. So going by the same scenario, it locks back. Now this M1 Carbine actually has a manual bolt hold open, so if I pull this thing back and push this button down, I can actually lock it back in place and then take the magazine out, put a new magazine in. This magazine is a Korean 15-rounder, which means it doesn't have a bolt hold mechanism. And so I put the new magazine in, and then I can simply push this bolt back, and I'm good to go. It's ready to fire. And we're back. Technical difficulties. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the M1 Carbine. M1 Carbine is, as I was saying, chambered in 30 caliber carbine, which is a pistol caliber cartridge. It was used in World War II. Not as prolific as the M1 Garand, but they still made a bunch of them. In fact, I'm really excited about the M1 Carbines generally because I think that the State Department is finally allowing the M1 Carbines that we had given to Korea years and years ago are going to be coming back to the United States, and they're going to be pretty inexpensive. I'm going to guess they're going to be anywhere between $600 to $800 a piece. I'm guessing, and there'll be various quantities and qualities and things like that, and hopefully different makes and models as well. 30 caliber carbine, they don't make the cartridges anymore in large production, so they're a little more expensive. But they're kind of neat guns. They have a peep sight. I don't know. They're sort of smaller versions of the M14 or the what am I thinking of? What the hell am I thinking of? Ruger makes it. The AC556 in full auto. I'm blanking. You guys will help me. It's the ranch gun. The Mark 14? Shit. I'm blanking. I should know this. This is easy stuff. This is like talking about, entry-level guns. Anyway, though, let's move on. I'm going to stop. So, next gun. Oh, yeah. I was talking about bolt hold opens. So, the Yugoslavian M70 also has a bolt hold open in the fact that its magazine has a bolt hold open. So, watch what happens. I'm going to pull back, and it locks in place because it's a bolt hold open. Now, if I take the magazine out, what happens? What happens? Oh, it goes out, right? I'm going to do it again. Put the magazine back in, do it again. Now, here's what's really cool about some of these newer Yugoslavians, M70s, is that I can pull this bolt back. I can put the safety up. It has a groove in place, and so now I can take out the magazine, and I can grab another one. This one does not have a bolt hold open, so it's not going to slam. It's not going to hold it back. Put it in, and I can then move the safety down, and it locks in place. Pretty cool. This is, I really enjoy collecting the Yugoslavian AKs. This one is a Yugoslavian M70. This one's made by Century, which is sort of the entry-level stuff, but I got some ones that aren't Century. This one is, I like it because it says Zastava, Yugoslavia, and I'm going to butcher this. Kragujevec is the name of the city. And in Serbia now, not Serbia. And I don't collect these because I'm pro-Serbian, or I'm pro-Croatian, or pro-Bosnian, or pro-Albanian. I think that Yugoslavia generally has a very rich history. It has a very rich production history with the AKs. It was part of the Non-Aligned Pact, which means that it wasn't part of the Warsaw Pact. And so they still got weapons from the Soviets, but they did it their own. They actually built these things quite differently than how the Russians or Soviets built theirs, and so there's some huge differences in the guns. For instance, they have bulged front trunnions. They have larger rivets. They have pressed barrels. They have heavier RPK style barrels than the AKMs do. They have grenade launcher sights. They have tritium sights, and so these things flip up. I actually have some night sights. They're all decay. They're all done. They have all these sort of things. They have these old folders and things, and I can actually fold this up because it's actually kind of neat looking when we do that. Get the stock out of the way. And I can fold it up, and now I have a folded stock, and I can fold it back out. This stock is actually really a pain in the butt to use, because it's a wire stock, and so if I actually were to shoulder it, oh man, my cheek hurts. It's hurting. I mean, I could put like some pad or diaper on or something, but no. This is these are cool guns. I think they're so very interesting, and plus they also has a very interesting history in that there is the fact that a lot of these guns were used in the most recent conflicts in terms of the various wars in the Balkans. And so that's also kind of an interesting thing as well. But I don't collect them for that reason. I collect them more because of the Yugoslavian history more generally as it relates to the production and other things around those lines. They're very unique guns. I've already gone way out of time, and I've answered the questions. And so to recap on Evan Venom's question, it's because the in-game mechanics always assume that you don't have any jams in your guns, and for those guns you can always operate that bolt hold open. It makes it faster, it really does. But Battlefield is assuming an ideal situation where you never have a jam and you never have bad ammo, and you always are good at putting the magazine in full and other things like that. And so that's why the AK, when you get done with the AK and you fire it and you get done your 30 rounds, I gotta reload it. There's no bolt hold open or anything around those lines. Oh yeah, last gun before I end this. So this one is a project gun. This is a Romanian Draco pistol. It's an AK-47 made in Romania as a pistol. And then I registered it as a Title II firearm, as a short-barreled rifle, and I added a stock to it, a folding stock to it. And so if I were to pull this thing, how do I do it? Other way around. Down, I now have a folding stock, and then now it's a little folding stock. And this thing is an abomination. It really is a Frankenstein because I wanted to make it that way. Back a few years ago, these Draco pistols were around $300. Really nothing. And so I was like, you know what? I see a lot of people trick out their AR-15s. These kind of guns. They trick them out. So as an example, they'll say, okay, they'll take a $1,000 base gun, and they'll put in like $100 foregrip that has little, you know, bipod stuff. They'll put in like $100 flash hider. They'll put in $1,000 optics. They'll put in $150 what's that called? Stock, excuse me. This isn't a $100 stock. They'll put in a, you know, custom pistol grip. They'll put in all kinds of bells and whistles into it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's like, you know, souping up your car. And so I say, you know what I'm going to do? The Draco is basically one of the cheapest AKs that you can buy on the market, period. And I'm going to soup it up like you'd soup up like a Honda Accord. I'm going to take a $300 gun, and I am going to put more accessories in it than not only it's worth, but several times it's worth. And so that's what I did. I thought it'd be a really fun thing to do. And so I'm not going to go through the costs on this, but for those that know about guns, you can add it up and be amazed at how I just threw my money away. I have a Robson Arms. This is a Rogers Super Stock. I have an Ace milled aluminum folding stock trunnion. I have a Magpul MOE Plus, which is rubber, with an Ace adapter. I have a Texas Weapon Systems Gen 2 integrated dust cover rail. And then I also have a Texas Weapon Systems handguard, which these things just came out. And they're really quite neat. And then I also have a PWS 47 compensator. I also usually put in a who makes this? Is it a LaRue? Yeah, I think it is a LaRue handguard. But I have a vertical foregrip that I usually put on this, but I took it off for cleaning. And so I have a bunch of shit on here that's just way too expensive for how much this thing is worth. But the nice thing is that almost all these parts, for the most part, I can swap out with other guns. And so if I want to put this stock on my other AR, I can. If I want to put this other grip on another AR, I can. If I put this dust cover in our AK, I can. If I put this handguard in our AK, I can. It's all very interchangeable. Although I had to actually modify the handguard system to accommodate the Draco pistol because it has a shorter gas system. And so I had to get out my Dremel and Dremel it out. And I know for those that actually do, you know, serious hobby work, using a Dremel on this kind of stuff is sort of sacrilege. But I don't have access to a milling machine. I don't have access to a lathe, and I don't have the patience to file, you know, aluminum down for hours on end. So this gun is chambered in 7.2x39, and as such, it has, and with a short barrel, it has a fearsome bite to it. Now, it's not a kick that's so bad. The PWS brake actually makes the recoil very manageable. And I usually run this with this little sight on it, like I shown before. But the thing is that because this brake is so good, and I'm gonna do an episode in the coming months where I talk about the importance of muzzle brakes and how one muzzle brake can have a tremendous difference on the feel of the gun versus the other. This muzzle brake has it set up so that when I fire this thing, if you're within 5 feet of it, you're gonna feel it. If you were like if I was like in an office. No, actually, I'm not gonna go there. If you were writing down some things in a gun log while I was shooting this thing, like doing doing velocity tests, this thing would blow the papers off the bench because this thing has such a force to the sides that it's just incredible. This thing is goofy as hell, but it is so much fun to shoot, especially when you put a drum mag on. It is so goofy. It is, but it's so loud, but it is so much fun. Eventually, I'm going to get this whole thing re-blued, or at least maybe like a for the aluminum, a bluing-like solution, because you can't blue aluminum. You can blue steel, but something that matches. I don't know. But nonetheless, though, really fun gun. I've gone way over time, and so that's basically it. Thanks for tuning in. Send in questions if you want to have me talk more about these guns, or your gun in particular, I can. And I don't know. Until next time. This is way too long, so get out of here. See ya.